All right, let's talk about one of the most game-changing ideas for anyone trying to get real, meaningful work done today. We're diving into Cal Newport's book, Deep Work. This is basically your guide to getting your focus back in a world that seems totally engineered to steal it. So let's just start with a question that, might hit a little too close to home for some of us. Do you ever get to the end of a completely frantic day, you look back, and you just wonder, what did I actually get done? I mean, you were busy, no doubt, but were you productive? Well, Cal Newport argues that feeling isn't really your fault. It's actually a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. Our entire work culture is kind of drifting, getting pulled into this giant sea of shallow, low-value tasks. You know the ones. They keep us busy, but they stop us from doing the work that truly matters. And that brings us right to the central battle of modern work, doesn't it? The constant fight for our own attention. We are, without a doubt, living in the age of distraction. But it wasn't always this way. And if you look at some of the most prolific creators, they actively built worlds for themselves that were free from distraction. I mean, think about it. Carl Jung built a literal stone tower just so he could think. Woody Allen turned out an incredible body of work by sticking to a typewriter. And while the rest of the world was jumping on social media, J.K. Rowling was totally offline finishing Harry Potter. They knew the secret. They understood the power of going deep. Now, this isn't just about feeling a little better or being more creative. Newport's main argument, and it's a big one, is that in our current economy, the ability to truly focus, well, it's becoming an economic superpower. There are these two MIT economists, Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee, who call our time the Great Restructuring. What they mean is that technology and AI are changing the game so fast that they're splitting the job market into two huge groups: people who are amplified by technology and people who are replaced by it. So who actually wins in this new economy? Well, it boils down to three groups. You've got the high-skilled workers who can team up with complex tech. You've got the superstars who are so good at what they do that their talent is in demand everywhere. And then, of course, the owners with the capital. Now, those first two groups are accessible to us, but they share a really important requirement. And here it is. This is the crucial point. To get into those thriving groups, you have to master two things. First, the ability to learn complicated stuff fast. And second, the ability to produce work at an absolutely elite level, both in quality and speed. And guess what? Both of these depend completely on one thing: deep work. Okay, so let's get a really clear definition of these two modes of work that we all find ourselves in. Honestly, this distinction is the absolute heart of Newport's entire philosophy. First up, deep work. This is when you're totally in the zone, distraction-free, pushing your brain to its absolute limits. It's the kind of work that creates breakthrough ideas, it builds valuable new skills, and it's stuff that can't be easily outsourced or automated away. And what's really fascinating is when you put it right next to its opposite, shallow work. This is all the logistical stuff, right? Answering emails, sitting in status meetings, posting on social media. It doesn't really tax your brain. It's super easy for someone else to do, and we often do it while we're distracted. It feels like work for sure, but it doesn't create nearly as much value. And the cost of all this shallow work? It is staggering. An internal study at Atlantic Media found the company was spending over $1 million a year just in salary costs for employees to process email. That's the real price of distraction. So, we've seen the problem, we get the stakes. The big question is, how do we actually do this? Well, Newport gives us a framework of 4 clear, totally actionable rules. These are pretty much the pillars of living a deep life. First, work deeply. That's all about creating the right habits and rituals. Second, embrace boredom. And this is a really cool, counterintuitive idea about training your concentration. Third, quit social media, which is really about being a master of your tools. And finally, drain the shallows, a strategy for taking back control of your day. So, let's pull out a key insight from each one. Rule 1, work deeply, is all about building rituals. You know Jerry Seinfeld's method for writing jokes? It's a perfect example. Every single day, he'd put a big red X on a calendar. After a few days, you've got a chain. And your job isn't to write the perfect joke. Your only job is to not break the chain. Why this is so huge for you is that it completely bypasses the need for motivation. You're not waiting around for inspiration, you're just showing up. Another great tactic for working deeply is what he calls the grand gesture.
To finish the last Harry Potter book, J.K. Rowling literally escaped her life by checking into a suite at a fancy hotel. Now, the takeaway for us isn't to book a five-star suite, I wish, but it's to recognize that a big change of scenery or some kind of clear investment signals to your brain, hey, this work is important. It's time to focus.
Okay, rule 2 sounds kind of weird, but it's brilliant. Embrace boredom. See, most of us take breaks from our work by finding distraction, like checking our phone. Newport says to flip that. Take breaks from focus. You have to train your attention like a muscle. So when you're standing in line or walking, just resist the urge. Let yourself be bored for a minute. This is so critical because if you're constantly giving your focus away to your phone in all those little in-between moments, you'll have nothing left for the deep work that actually moves your career forward. Rule 3 is all about being radically intentional with your tools. And for a lot of us, that might mean quitting social media. Newport suggests what he calls the craftsman approach. So don't ask, hey, does this tool offer any possible benefit? Instead ask, is this the absolute best way to support my core goals? And do its benefits massively outweigh its negatives? This matters because it flips the whole script. You go from being a passive consumer of whatever the algorithm feeds you to being a master craftsman who deliberately chooses their tools for a specific job. And finally, rule 4, drain the shallows. A super powerful technique here is to schedule your entire day. Block out time for everything, deep work, shallow tasks, even your breaks. Now, the goal isn't to be a robot and stick to it perfectly. Life happens. The real goal is to be intentional. When things go off the rails, and they will, you just take a minute and remake the plan. It's not about being rigid, it's about being proactive. It's the difference between your day happening to you and you happening to your day. And all this brings us to the final and maybe the most important idea of all. Deep work isn't just about getting more done. It's about living a life with more meaning and more satisfaction. These philosophers, Dreyfus and Kelly, argue that true craftsmanship is a profound source of meaning. A master craftsman doesn't just invent meaning out of thin air. They discover it by developing their skill and really honoring the materials they work with. And this connects so perfectly to modern work. Deep work, it's really the craftsmanship of the 21st century. The programmer who writes that beautiful, elegant piece of code is tapping into the exact same source of meaning as the woodworker who carves a perfect joint. The act of applying high-level skill to a worthy challenge is, in itself, deeply meaningful. Ultimately, the promise of deep work isn't just a better career, it's a better life. As the author Winifred Gallagher put it, I'll live the focused life because it's the best kind there is. And I guess that leaves us all with a question, right? In a world that is constantly pulling us toward the shallows, do we have the courage to go deep?